Hmm. Huh. Welcome back to Taival Outdoors. My name is Joel, and this video is sponsored by 511 Tactical Finland. Let's go through what kind of gear I've been using for rucking, more specifically remote military march type of events that have been, at least in Finland, very popular since the beginning of a certain pandemic now 3-4 years ago. And in case you don't know what rucking means, it's basically just a fancy term for walking with some kind of a backpack on. And usually there tends to be, at least for these kind of events, some type of minimum weight requirement for the load you carry in your pack or in your ruck, hence the name rucking. Generally speaking, that minimum load tends to be around 10 kilos, and that's so-called dry weight. So kind of the minimum setup you need to have is 10 kilos. Then you add your water, for example, to it, or if you're planning on making a meal, some type of outdoor meal while you're doing the event, then of course that gets added to the 10 kilos and so forth. So there's always at least 10 kilos on your pack. Then depending on the event, usually you track your progress or your march, you track the time, distance of course is very important, and the actual GPS route that you took, and then upload it to the event organizers. And that's then kind of your result. It's not a competition, it's just a nice way to get people out there and moving. And when you put a little bit of weight on your back, it actually turns into a pretty decent steady state cardio type of workout as well. There has of course been different kinds of rucking events, of course, way before the pandemic hit. For example, Nijmegen Vierdaagse March that had been going on for, I believe, already over 100 years by the time I attended it in 2018. And in that event, I joined the Finnish military delegation, in which we did 4 days of 40 kilometers per day with 10 kilos plus your water and whatnot. Just around that time, and then afterwards, the popularity of that event began to rise in Finland. But unfortunately, as the pandemic hit, that event got cancelled. So different actors started to organize their own events, at least in Finland, many of which are now also something you can join, of course, remotely worldwide. A couple of examples would be Varustellekas Remote Military March, as well as perhaps my own favorite, RUL 4-day military march event, both of which I've attended now for all 3 years and planning on attending now this summer as well. But anyway, enough chit chat. Let's talk about the stuff that you actually came here for. So first of all, I've been using this 511 Rush 24 backpack now for several years for these events, and of course for other uses as well. 30 liters or so, so good generalist size backpack. However, it doesn't come with a waist belt by default. And I can tell you, once you start to really do some serious distances and kilometers, especially many days in a row, you start to feel even that 10 kilo weight on your shoulders quite a bit. So 511 has now, I believe this spring, released a belt kit for all their Rush backpacks, and actually some of their other backpacks do include these loops here already. So clearly these backpacks were designed to be used with waist belt, and I've actually run my own waist belt here on previous occasions. But now 511 has their own belt kit, which is, in my opinion, a must-have if you have any type of Rush backpack. Next up, you need to, of course, fill the backpack with something to reach that required weight limit. And many people notice that the easiest way of doing that is to add some kind of weight to it. But for example, using something like this is a small diameter 12 kilo kettlebell. If you throw this in, not only it screws up your carrying comfort of the back, but it puts a lot of stress to the backpack bottom as well. So definitely not ideal. Something like a weight plate might be a bit better, but it comes with the same downsides. Surprisingly enough, it's not that much better if you just fill up some dry sacks with sand. They tend to kind of form into this tear shape and really put a lot of strain to the backpack bottom and press against your lower back. So that's why I was quite excited when I noticed these 511 Tactec weight plate sandbags, because I thought that this is the perfect form factor for rucking events and something to put in your backpack. And as you can tell, it sits nice and flat, close to your back, and it doesn't put a lot of similar type of strain to such a small area on the bottom of the back. And of course, the same principle works if you have actual some type of ballistic protection plates or other type of weight plates, something like this, available. And here's a free tip: go barefooted as much as you can. That toughens up your feet and makes rucking easier. I was planning on trying it this way, that I will put both of these just like so, because this particular backpack has such a large capacity that it definitely can fit both of these inside here. Then I will probably put maybe some kind of warm layer, some jacket or something stuck in here, so I can wear that jacket if I happen to take breaks or whatnot. And then run the hydration bladder here as per usual. And now let's see, with empty backpack and those two plates, what does it weigh? $11.2 kilos. So we are a bit over that 10 kilo mark, but the most important thing is that we are not below it. Remember that it is the minimum weight requirement and not the maximum. So 11.2 kilos, that's good enough for me. And of course, with that kind of a weight plate that you fill up with sand, you know, your mileage may vary. If it's very wet sand, it's going to weigh more. And if it's dry sand, it's going to weigh less. However, when you do fill up this thing with sand, I noticed that after every scoop, it's good to bang it on the ground a few times to really pack the sand down. One final thing about shoes. These happen to be from 511 Tactical as well. I've been now running these for 3 years, I think. And initially I was interested about these specifically for rucking and for summer use. These are the AT boots. I do have a full review on my channel, so if you're interested in these, do check it out. What made me interested in these was the fact that these are canvas, so they do breathe a lot better than leather, or let alone some type of Gore-Tex or waterproof boots in general. Plus, these do have these two little vents here, which are actually, as far as I can tell, meant to drain out water in case you step in the puddle or whatnot. So very similar to the system that the old USGI jungle boots had. And of course, being these type of little ventilation holes here, they should increase the airflow a bit as well. As you can tell by the tread, I've done a few hundred kilometers on these bad boys so far, and these are probably the only boots that I've had that I've had some issues when wearing double socks. And I would usually always encourage people to wear double socks when doing any kind of backpacking, hiking, or rucking events. That has always prevented blisters for me, at least. And it's a system that I've used since my own military service over a decade ago. But for these, I feel like there's just not enough room for some parts of my feet to move. So actually, during the next event, I'm going to run with just single layer of socks with these boots and see how it goes. Because I am so used to the superiority of the double sock system that it will be, you know, nice and interesting, at least for me personally, to test out these boots now with just one layer of good merino wool socks inside of these. And yes, I do run merino wool even during summer, at least for socks, purely because of the fact that during hiking, backpacking trips, it's easy to just dry those socks and they're good to go the next day. So that's what I use and haven't had issues. But of course, do carry Leuko tape of whatever measures you want to have for preventing and then dealing with blisters. And always remember to deal with any of that stuff, any hot spots and so forth. before the situation escalates and it becomes too big of an issue to deal with while you're on the move or on the field in general. So yeah, a little tip there for you as well. We might do a separate video about how I deal with blisters in case I do get some blisters during the next couple of events that I will be attending this summer. So we'll see about that. Links to all of these products are, of course, down in the description. Everything I said is based on my personal opinions, except, of course, this is now the first summer and first events that I am running these sand plates. But you know, these are pretty straightforward, so it's not like I would need a lot of experience to tell that something like this works very well for this application. Let me know down in the comments if you are attending any of these remote military marching events this summer, or perhaps the glorious Nijmegen Vierdaagse 4-day event. Maybe next year I will come back to Holland and join the Finnish military delegation again and go do some rocking over there. It's a great event. It's an absolutely amazing and cannot be compared to anything else. But these remote military marching events are still, I believe, a great way of testing kind of where your base level fitness is. And for me personally, as I don't do that much backpacking during summer, I usually tend to do it towards the fall or maybe earlier in the spring. Doing these remote events, marching with the backpack on, is also a good way for me to kind of keep up that level of strength and familiarity with walking long distances with the backpack on. That cannot be overstated how important it is. I do feel like it helps me then in the fall when I do my longer hikes and so forth. All right, that was all for this time. My name is Joel. You've been watching Taival Outdoors. I will see you in the next one or in some rocking event this coming summer.